What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'll be bringing you a brand new reaction video. Today's reaction video was suggested by Will. I'll put his comment on screen now. He asked me if I could react to could the US invade the UK if it wanted to. Now I'm doing something different again. It's not a sport one because you guys enjoyed it. I'm still bringing my sport ones out, so if you enjoy your sport, don't worry too much, guys. If you're new around here, go and check my other reactions out. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let's try and hit 20 to 30 likes on this video. Now, relating to this video, what I expect it to say is that they could absolutely demolish Britain if they really wanted to. Sorry, the UK, not Britain. That's what I'm expecting, because at the end of the day, America's huge compared to us. It really wouldn't surprise me. So I'm expecting them to say, yeah, there's no chance, absolutely no chance. But luckily we're allies, so we're never gonna face this problem. I hope maybe one day in the future, but I really hope we don't. Unless this video
US
has.
and UK are close allies.
Turn that down a little bit.
US armed might is far greater than that of UK.
Yeah, pretty much what I was just saying.
For argument's sake, and to learn what sort of limitations waging warfare across the ocean implies, this video will explore US invading the United Kingdom. So, with just the airplanes and ships left to count on, is an invasion over the Atlantic viable?
Probably. I imagine it is. It really wouldn't surprise me if it is.
Welcome to Binkov's HQ.
Oh, we gotta skip
not many
the paper
to
potion.
invade social features. You're looking. You know that people
Where are we
around
going?
the world or join a clan enemies and fight like a Viking, and all other countries are impassable. You successful fight like a
There
Viking.
we go. Sorry about that, guys.
And now, could US military successfully invade UK if it wanted to?
100%.
Some rules will apply.
Surely this is another
US
pointless
gets
video.
no overseas bases, and all other countries are impassable. Distance from US to UK mainland is pretty big,
Okay.
especially when reaching
No
London.
allies, no nukes. That makes sense, because if he had nukes, it'd just be game over for both.
First be clear of British ships, and Royal Air Force must be suppressed. US has a massive advantage when it comes to naval assets. Basically, all of its assets are made for oceans and could operate near UK if needed, while the Americans would
So basically, that's their navy absolutely destroying
need
us.
to sail to and from Britain, taking weeks away from their actual presence. US Navy could pretty much do whatever it pleases near the UK. It's interesting to point out that most of US ships do not carry anti-ship missiles. US Navy prefers to use their carriers for such missions. British Royal Navy
they'll just take the carriers there anyway, even though they can't take anti-ships. They'll take their carriers and just blow them up anyway.
On a similar route. Their Harpoon missiles are old and set to be retired soon. Not all ships
has no
have
real air wing yet. First trials with the FB were done in 2015. Initial operation capability set for 2020. Harpoon was set to retire in 2018. Okay.
Only a minor part of the British fleet has modern air defense systems. Basically, the sea war would be fought above the sea and under it, but the British lacked anti-ship missiles for its aircraft. Furthermore, British Tornado aircraft ceased to train for the anti-ship missions almost 2 decades ago.
Basically, they will absolutely battle us in this.
US fleet, it would be down to 2 weapons: laser-guided bombs and short-range tactical missiles. Brimstone in particular might be the weapon of choice. While its warhead is tiny, Brimstone 2 has a decent range. Still, against dozens of potent destroyers designed to deal with many anti-ship missiles at once, it's unlikely UK could do much.
Let's just stay friends, you all US guys, you know. We're pretty chill. You guys seem pretty chill as well. Let's just stay friends.
British best bet would be their submarines.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Theoretically, the British could use their ballistic missile subs as attack subs as well, and speed up the entry into service of another astute sub, while keeping one Trafalgar running a bit longer, rummaging for retired sailors to crew it. Still, the British would be far up.
We've still got 11 and they've got 68. If they sent all theirs, they'd still outnumber us easily. Yeah, we got no chance. It's the same with the US versus Australia one. It seems a bit pointless. The US would just spend absolutely billions and billions, potentially even trillions, one of you guys were saying, on their army, and we just can't afford to do that, and it just shows in the differences in size.
US submarine fleet dwarfs theirs. Given a bit less time on station and British home advantage when it comes to resupply, the balance of power may not be quite 6-to-1. Still, it's no question the British subs would get hunted down within months.
Pretty much, yeah.
Anti-submarine platforms would also play a large role. And while the British could use all their assets, Even just the deployable portion of US assets
Still got nowhere
would be
near as
enough
many.
to force the British subs into hiding. Furthermore, US carrier-based air power would make it hard for British anti-sub helicopters to operate.
We literally just have no chance. Why am I watching this video, guys? This is just depressing. That if you guys want to invade us, you could.
Whether to use more carriers initially and then have less available later on, or to maintain a smaller number on constant patrol. To defeat the British Air Force, the former is more likely. US nominally has 11 carriers, but only 9 air wings. It does have an additional support wing, which is a lot bigger. It may be the source of 1 or 2 more combat wings after some months of preparation. But crews aren't the only issue. Lifespan of a carrier necessarily involves lengthy maintenance periods. Important to note is that the deployable period doesn't mean the carrier can actually be on a mission the whole time. Usually,
again, this is the only thing I suppose we have in our favour if you guys want to invade us. We're so far away, potentially you struggle to get it there. But at the end of the day, down the line, you eventually get enough there at the right time and you overrun us no matter what, the way I see it.
1 or 2 deployments are made during those 18 months. Missions are usually 6 to 8 months long, and several months are needed to prep the carrier and its wing for another mission. Shorter missions might give more deployments in the short term, but in the long term, they would require even more maintenance for every month spent out at sea.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because of all that, it's unrealistic US would send out more than 6 carriers at once, after a few months of prep time. Similar issues would affect the aviation assault ships. Perhaps 4 to 6 could be deployed at once, after some preparations.
It's still quite a few though.
The total of combat planes US Navy and Marine Corps could muster in a few months long air campaign is thus smaller than the total number of US planes. US might fly in fresh planes to replace ones that got lost.
1,000 active.
To a carrier would be doable.
340 stored. We've got 180 active. 30 stored. No chance. Well, we got a total 180, 30 stored, so we got no chance.
Royal Air Force is smaller than even the readily available US planes deployed on carriers. Another huge issue for the British would be their lack of air defenses. Everything they currently have are fairly low altitude systems.
I love the Kermit looking general who's explaining this to us, by the way. Rate him.
Bomb them from high up with guided weapons. UK would also suffer the US cruise missile barrage. While the Brits have some such missiles of their own, it's unlikely they would be used against the faraway US bases. Even the subs that could carry them would be better utilized for defense of the homeland.
Yeah, that makes sense.
While not all could be launched at once, US could sustain the effort. The British Air Force would be mostly paralyzed on the ground. US has also a much bigger recon platform fleet. Especially when it comes
not
to
surprising
satellites.
one bit.
British lack those, as in the real world they timeshare some US spy satellites. US aircraft would be looking for targets as well. Britain would have no real means of scouting the US bases. US AWACS type planes would be plentiful, while British ones would mostly be trapped on the ground, with runways and highways being mostly inoperative.
Yeah, so pretty much you'd be able to surround us, we'd just be trapped, we'd never be able to get out to attack you guys to defend, and you just pin us in, keep swapping your ships about, keep swapping your aircrafts about, and just constant bombardment until we give in, I guess, or until there's none of us left. Either one, I imagine would probably give in first, but brutal, good job with friends. I keep repeating it, but it's a good job with friends.
Thus the Royal Air Force would slowly get destroyed on the ground. When they would be able to get some planes airborne, they still may not choose to engage the Americans, as it's likely US attack waves would be made of close to 100 planes with possibly as many fighters as Britain would muster per each local interception, or more. The best Britain could hope for would be a roughly equal kill ratio in the air, and when the losses on the ground are included over months of a protracted bombing campaign, US
in the first 6 months, so dozens to 100 planes lost in the air, 100 plus lost on the ground, probably less than 100 planes lost in combat. It just absolutely shows the difference. And that's in the first 6 months, so I assume that includes all the travel time for America as well, so it's not truly the 6 months, which is mental.
Would still be left with a sizable force. All this didn't even include the US Air Force. While the scenario requires it to use the bases inside the US, Britain could be reached. At first, bombers would be deploying cruise missiles, but later on they would be likely used for bombing missions. But could the Air Force tactical plane fleet help out as well? With very ample in-flight refueling, the answer is yes. US operates the world's biggest air tanker fleet, The Hercules-based tankers,
584
however, are
aircrafts.
too small and would use
Okay,
most of the fuel just to
455
get near
aircrafts.
Britain. Still, the remainder of the fleet has a substantial fuel offload capacity, and tankers could refuel each other. Such ops may sound complex, but compared to what the British did in Falklands War, they're fairly basic. The British used a dozen tankers to refuel themselves repeatedly, keeping the bomber refueled throughout all of the route. While all of the tanker fleet
Never
could
knew
not
that.
be available due to maintenance, the rest could still offload significant fuel loads just
11,000
outside
tons
Britain if
transferable.
needed.
Wow.
With several refuelings per
This
plane, US
When you think about the strategy in terms of war, you get some people just think, just send everything in, especially if it was such a big distance fight. There's so much strategy what comes into it, a lot of planning, just so it goes right, because if you get it wrong at the end of the day, you could wipe out a lot of planes if you don't have enough fuel, if you don't get the transfers right or anything like that, and it's mental to see how much planning actually goes into this.
Air Force could still expect to have around 400 combat planes in action practically every day. The British would really have no chance in the air. Within months, the US
What do you mean,
would have
just in the air?
complete
We have no
control of
chance
the air,
anywhere.
and thus the second phase of the invasion might commence. By that time, British ships would be mostly dead, even if they hugged the shores and just aided in the air defenses. British submarines might hold out a bit longer, if not being used to actively hunt down US ships.
So that 24 US subs or ships
managed to kill 2 US vessels for each of their own.
Well, actually, to be fair, it depends whether it's a Baker's dozen or not. But we'll go with 24.
The result would be the end of the Royal Navy. So at around 6 months or so into the war, the landings would be mostly unopposed, except for the Royal Army defending the shores. 6 months would be enough for US to assemble pretty much all of their active and reserve assets. In addition to landing ships, US could count on numerous cargo assets of its Sea Lift Command and Reserve Fleet in case a port is secured.
So pretty much in 6 months you surrounded us, beat us down, and we only got people on the land, and we're just there sitting thinking, we're absolutely screwed.
US Airborne could also help, with the numbers shown probably growing with newly trained paratroopers. Getting additional heavier equipment for them, however, would not be likely.
20,000 troops you can come in as well.
US transport plane fleet is pretty big and should be able to drop
everything
all the
in the US
airborne
is pretty
troops
big
within days.
Wow.
US could be looking at close to 30,000 troops during the first day, and
that's
close
mental.
to
That is so
20,000
mental.
more the day after. Subsequent days would see fewer and fewer troops being added, and more supplies being brought in. The British would enjoy more soldiers than shown before. The reserve mentioned covers only the soldiers receiving some training periodically, and soldiers for whom some heavy equipment is.
So let's just compare these. Obviously you expect to be a lot bigger, huge population compared. We spoke about it in the Australia, America one. It's not comparable one bit, but if you look at the active army troops, it's nearly 4 times bigger in America, obviously. But that's before mobilisation as well. Yeah, it's just over, isn't it? So a total of 1.4 million. That's mental.
In an event of a total war, Britain would be using those 6 months to mobilize as many soldiers as possible.
Yeah.
While they would be equipped with basically just rifles, and while their training would be less than adequate, they would still
it'd be absolutely useful with a rifle. 100% useless.
Yet all those soldiers may not be enough, as UK has a problem of geography. Its landmass is just too large. Its coastline is very long, even when taking just the western part of its coastline into account.
Yeah, there's no way in hell we'd be able to defend everywhere the coastline. No way in hell.
The area to be defended is huge. And what about the islands? Perfect for US to take and entrench themselves at, before launching further landings from them. Most of those areas.
Yeah, Isle Man isn't as well, and you know what, I'll give you guys a little bit of a geography lesson here. Down here, you got these 2 islands down here, as you can see on the map. That is part of Britain, not part of the UK, but it's part of Britain. That is currently where I am at the moment, in Jersey. It's called the Channel Islands. It's closer to France, but it's not part of France, but we potentially could take them. The Germans took that in World War II as well, and they use that as a hunting ground, I suppose, just to try and get a step on to the next bit. But could potentially take that.
Areas are sufficiently far away from the mainland that British artillery would not be much of a factor. And what about Northern Ireland? There are just too many places for the US to concentrate its assault on. The British would not be able to move their forces around easily and protect those islands or the Northern Ireland.
Yeah, that makes sense. No chance.
So the islands would fall one by one. Then either Northern Ireland would be taken or part of Great Britain would fall. Hard to traverse overland Scotland would be an obvious choice. Though that would also
10 to 20,000 each soldier. Okay, there's quite a lot of people still. Obviously not enough.
Or Devon are also decent picks, as British defenders lack room to swoop down on the US beachhead from all directions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Such areas would likely be more heavily populated by British military to begin with.
Quite a few combat vehicles. I imagine the US has a lot more, but obviously they won't have brought too many over because it's just a long journey. Unless they will have. I may be shocked if they have brought too many over potentially, but I can't imagine them getting too many combat vehicles on land.
Once the US manages to secure ports and airfields and brings in US Army reinforcements, it would be basically game over for the British. US
Game over
would build
before we
up its
start, to be
helicopter
honest.
force on the areas it has taken, which is considerable. While the British have a fleet of their own to help quickly distribute its forces where needed, their numbers are small. Both sides would of course be losing many
Look at them
helicopters.
numbers, small
US
compared.
to British low-level air defenses and British to US fighter cover, which would continuously be flying over the important areas. The British would have only a small part of shown inventory of heavy weapons present at any one point the US attacks. While US would also not be disembarking thousands of its Abrams tanks or 10,000 of other heavy combat vehicles,
Yeah.
the overwhelming fire support coming from various directions would more than make up for it.
Yeah,
First,
exactly. So they won't be bringing any land vehicles, I can't imagine. But again, on the aircraft carriers, they've got a lot of missiles. They've got a lot of on their carriers, they've got a lot of missiles, and in the aircraft, they've got missiles, and it'd just be overwhelming, wouldn't
the
it?
ships may come in form of MLR units firing from the ships rather than actual gun barrage. US ships still lack long-range gun rounds.
Okay.
Attack helicopters are another way of concentrating force in one area quickly. But again, the British are far outmatched, even if just half
As always,
of
you
US
know,
numbers are present.
that's just the theme
issue
of this
for the
video, far
Americans
outmatched.
would be time. As the scenario asks what can be achieved within 1 year, US would be under pressure to progress from their multiple beachheads. Northern Ireland is likely to fall within the 1 year time limit, but only minor parts of the Great Britain would be overrun by the Americans during the same time period.
Yeah, it's quite mad though as well, because obviously the size of the army is the fact that I know there's a lot of strategy involved. It takes a lot of thinking stuff like that. The fact that it takes a year just for Northern Ireland to fall, and they still haven't taken most of the UK, even though they've pretty much taken it. You know, they've got all the chess pieces in place, just ready to fully take it out. It takes time, but it's mad that it takes so long to actually. I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not so long, but when you think about it, it feels long. But that's just me per se. I know obviously World Wars went on for years and years, and it's just when you think about it just on its own, it seems like a long time when you've got such a massive army against a small one. But it makes sense. It's such a big place, a lot of travel time, and again, when people are putting up a fight, it's not as simple as just send everyone in. So it does make sense.
The British would put up a hell of a fight. Ground troop loss
Yeah, we'll try our
would
best.
favor the British somewhat. But when Air Force and Navy losses are added in, where Britain would suffer more heavily, the US would come out fine. With added large chunks of
That's not what we want to
territory,
see. Oh,
the US
it
could
hurts.
call itself a victor. Big thanks goes to all my patrons.
We'll end the video there. I think that's the end of it. So basically, what we've learned from this video is stay allies with the US. They can destroy Australia, which we learned in the last one. They can invade us if they really wanted to. It might take a year, so at least we'd have a year with not being invaded, but it'd be an absolute brutal year of constant barrage, and we'd just be fighting as much as we can. But it'd be a losing battle from day one, basically. Thank you for suggesting that video, Will. I really enjoyed it. If you want me to react to anything else like this, let me know in the comments, guys. Let's try and hit 30 to 40 likes on this video. Subscribe if you're new, hit that notification bell. I'd really appreciate it, and have a great day, guys. Peace.